So, in an SLAA meeting, which is Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, it's basically for people who may be avoidant or attached and for love as if it's a drug. So I was reading some emails I sent my father early last year. It was, so 2024, because now we're in 2025 and 2023, and when I finally started getting off my chest and psyche the things he told me directly and indirectly during my life, I see I was, so harsh with him, and then I realized I could be harsh finally. I didn't have to wait till I was, in order to give myself permission to be harsh, maybe high or drunk or inebriated. I didn't always have to be the one who loves and comforts anymore, even though I wanted so badly to be that. Because there's so much reward in giving people what I thought was good feelings, but having power over others meant I was tuned for weakness and vulnerability and needy people. People who yearned for love like I did, fellow addicts who couldn't get enough love from the outside. It was not noble. I felt so attached to someone the last couple of weeks. I got hooked by the eye of gazing and ended up on conversations, but it suddenly went downhill. When I wrote this, it was somebody many months ago. After I was trying to get more by stopping by what turned into every day, and he rejected me, discarded me, wouldn't let me speak, told me he's not the guy, doesn't want to give his number, get mine, or meet outside work or privately. But the surrendering is seeing myself from someone else's eyes in order to see through my own eyes. And a top line is to check in regularly for deep breathing every day. In hindsight, I recognized how anxious I was to know how he felt about me, and my mind kept obsessing, and my imagination started fantasizing. I would get dressed knowing he would see my clothes, and I even had drink and smoke weed and felt the despair and hopelessness where life felt too painful to live through, when I thought death would be better. When I didn't see, I put a light in his eyes anymore, and I would talk to others hoping he'd see and like me and want me, and keep using a flipping a coin app on Google, asking about him and how he feels and whether he misses me, etc. And this was really like continuing on this topic. I remember it was like there was something negative. He put on his earphones when I tried to speak. He said no to even listening, because his name was Nati, because he could. Yet my mind jumps to him a lot, even though earlier that night he said he didn't want to speak to me privately. He's not that guy. He misbehaved, seemingly desperate for attention and power. It really hurt me to see he's not a king, and therefore he can't be nice to everyone like one. And I feel like the instance with replaying the money like approximately 8 months to a year ago, he says he came in where he had first overcharged me and then overpaid me back, and then I went back when it was not right and honest and fair. I went back to change the money again because I wanted to get more for what I had left. And it seems like he wanted pleasure, and I offered truth. Maybe he doesn't get pleasure from the truth because of his immaturity and undevelopedness. I couldn't believe I was willing to risk the wife position for a teacher with him. Men could be a teacher or husband, a woman could be a teacher or wife, but I thought maybe a wife can equal a teacher and a husband can equal a teacher too, but maybe I didn't realize that. I thought a woman could either be a teacher or a husband, or a man could be either a teacher, a woman could be either a teacher or wife, or a man could be a teacher or husband, but actually maybe a wife is a teacher, a husband's a teacher. Yesterday I said that the walls and environment could vibrate back to him the sounds and the words and vibrations. I said even if he's not listening, and the next day I said stuff with his earpods in, and I believe it'll still enter subconsciously since he isn't deep and honest. Maybe he's not self-aware enough, especially if he thinks I was not a good influence on his thoughts, or too seeking for information and knowledge and thinking there's more and better to life than what chocolate can offer, like getting married, having babies. Maybe he cannot manage all that I told him, all the details, all the calculating, all the remembering. Maybe he doesn't think he's good at it, amazing or worthy of real love demonstration. And there was this other meeting I went to, coda meeting. I was trying to process all this. That with in my identity, looking at it through unavailable partners, through God, I could be precious and free, versus the turmoil in relationships. And then, there was someone I liked, Nati, at that time, to feel safe, but I wasn't sure what safe really meant. Doesn't it mean protected from threat? Maybe that's not enough. Plus, I try to connect and he always shuts down or says no, or rejects or disconnects. I'm a projected version of someone hardworking, clean, brave, strong, smart, kingly. He keeps shutting that version down that I used to come with. This is in the past. I had to testify, and even he said I'm trying to control him because I said he should say thanks, he should say sorry, and that I didn't listen when he said I didn't want to hear, and that I didn't listen when he said he didn't want to hear, so that I feel he wants to control me, but it's also that he hasn't treated me the way that I would want to be treated. So why did I keep going to his job, try to give my number many days ago, but he said he threw it out without reading because he had said he didn't want a birthday gift. And I said, what if I need help? He said, call 911. I said to invite him somewhere sometimes, send him things because I don't always want to visit, or maybe I need to do the 12 steps again. I was thinking, and this is the 12-step program, and maybe in order to become emotionally available, in order to become even more emotionally available and taking good care of my sweetheart. So I realized it wasn't that I needed to do it, it was that I was doing it. By staying conscious through all of it, I am emotionally available, and I am taking good care of my sweetheart. That was something from the whole journey with it. I wanted to share something that somebody posted, the angry therapist, Siri Plotkin, posted on WhatsApp status from Instagram. You start finding joy in the things that never used to matter, watching a morning unfold slowly instead of rushing through it. A conversation with a stranger who doesn't know your past, so you get to show up as who you are now, not who you used to be. You trade the pressure of status for the freedom of discovery, and you learn that success is not about proximity to a dream, but about how deeply you're willing to live. And the Lunar New Year, when it started, I think with Aries, right? So with Nissan, the feminine divine principle in all affairs, where less is more, creating spaciousness in life and prioritizing. This is from Sri Rishi. Prioritizing time so that we don't have to dreamscape, so that we do have the time to dreamscape. And when we pay close attention to how we're digesting time in life, thinking of pancreas, liver, and spleen, which are the organs of digestion, it also affects our spiritual matter, physical matter, the experiences and transformation, growth and rebirth. We create a blueprint through lens of deep self-love and self-allowance and self-permission. Just one moment. And continuing with and then in the third fellowship, this is called ACA. The idea is if you spot it, you got it. So the freedom is not needing to prove anything, that I don't have it or that you have it and I don't. That's a trigger, but it triggers me versus bringing me to compassion. And there's this idea of taking care of people versus taking care of myself. There's an external caretaking or internal. And that's where I could bring in God as the imaginary friend. And if we want rules, perfection, closure versus the unknown, the uncertainty, the gray area, we could actually recognize there's this ever-changing goalpost versus perfection. When will we ever be fully satisfied? It's not that it can come through anyone. It's that I learn to forgive for my own sake, focusing on my own recovery, doing the right thing, versus getting people back. I really don't know everything that goes on behind the scenes. Other people can have resistance, and there's more than meets the eye. And thinking of doctors, going from natural medicine to connect, to cutting things up and people up. Like I met a doctor today trying to tell me if I eat something, I'll get fat. And I was like, I'm going to eat it in good health and in indulgence and enjoy. I'm not going to take in your opinions. And I don't know that you're my doctor. I don't know that you have all the right answers. So the idea that soon functional medicine will become systemic holistic medicine. And thinking about when I take walks and go to the park, instead of living in a box with a television box and getting fresh air and seeing the nature, and I reflect and I realize I used others, like I'm actually getting more clarity. I don't have to have toxic emotions like remorse and guilt and shame, and then we could let it go. Some people say guilt is a privilege, but we could let it go, and then we don't have to eat things that cause us those feelings. That's what getting fat is. I told them it's a shame we have to take medicine rather than just heal ourselves so that we're not having toxic energy inside, that we're going to eat unhealthy food. So anyway, when I take walks and I reflect and I realize that I used someone who I thought used me. For example, I was using this guy Nati for the fantasies and the writing and the content to feel sorry for myself, and I realized, and someone else, like I was using for company to feel better than someone, and I would, and also thinking about this idea that I was turning myself upside down, this art metaphor that helps me in my recovery, the creative versus destructive. So much cannot be put into words. The description is never the described, for others, turning myself upside down. I wasn't giving myself enough credit that not only was I surviving at a certain level, but I was doing it all upside down. And just this muscle of presence, that being present with myself, to be able to keep spending time with myself versus wanting the historical yearnings of the old. So that's like let's say chaos is the old, and we might yearn for chaos and the peace, God forbid, that's a healing too. And it's prevented me from, all this, the being upside down for others prevented me from realizing how amazing I am, because I'm measuring up their right-sided upness with my anti-gravity of being upside down. And that's a way to forgive even myself, saying, wow, I'm doing all this on top of that. Forgiveness as an approach in order to see where I might believe someone else is unforgivable for something I might be guilty of myself, in not abandoning myself, because I'm enough just where I stand right now. And I want to end with a fourth meeting, and then also some reflection. So in an OA meeting, in terms of maintaining my food plan, talking about the food, maintaining a food plan despite poverty, where I was having to go on food stamps. This is looking back in the past. And I reported a lady abusing a special needs woman, and she's a house manager, so she threatened me and screamed at me, and she grabbed me when I tried, bringing it up to her, and I have been able to say no to foods on my food plan, that were free at an event. And I'm also maintaining consciousness despite heartbreak. I relate to looking back and seeing so much lost time where I was checked out, and so being able to feel without escaping is a type of freedom, even though it's so bittersweet. Like feeling all this pain in this love relationship with that man, and even though it would have been easier to check out, like food is one of the ways. There are other things. I spoke about drinking or smoking. I tried different things. I tried the food, I tried the smoking, I tried the drinking. In the end, you have to feel, you have to stay conscious, you have to show up. And also seeing the sharp tongue, noticing when I didn't numb out and repress, that I don't always have the most graceful ways to express my emotions. Maybe that's why I pushed it down. I wasn't emotionally maturing because I was avoiding so much of life experience, but I didn't want to become so sharp in speech and so hurtful. So, but really that takes practice. Learning how to express things softer ways means you have to be able to tolerate that feeling enough. That takes time and practice. And the thing of being under the bus, the crabs pull each other down. Once you're in the bucket, it brings me down once I'm there, so no one's getting me out. There's a lonely period till I get out, and I can be in recovery with others in recovery versus those I struggle to be around who might overeat, like eating compulsively and addictively, or other kind of escaping, checking out, avoidance. And the crabs don't mean to pull each other down. They're just hanging on, hoping to get out. And when I was walking in the park, which is another type of therapy, it's like not quite my therapy, but it's like it's not a 12-step meeting, but it's it's when I'm relaxed. So I'm becoming a new person who's relaxed, who I was always meant to be. And when I'm relaxed, people around me are relaxed too. And maybe I'm not only a lion, I might be the pikefish or a snake or a dog maybe. Becoming a new person is a snake because of the transformation, I was thinking. And I think maybe they call it a mental illness to be able to become a new person, but that's actually what love does, and that's what pain does. So I'm willing to let go of the version of myself that I wanted someone on the outside to love, then I can truly be loved by somebody. And I'm thinking the version of the first man that I was really with in a sexual, maybe karmic relationship as they call it, his name is Binyamin, I was giving him back the imprints on my mind where I don't need to write things down just because they seem important, as if Hashem isn't enough of an imaginary whatever, like to know them that, around the time like my guinea pig died, like at least 7 years ago I think, or more, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago, I felt like a failure a lot of the time raising her. I see how numb I was at the time as a reference point, looking, it's a little, and Hashem can come through the phone, the paper and pen besides the other things too. So writing them down is also speaking to an imaginary, sensory, cognitive, behavioral, effective audience. I'm going to say that again. If I'm not writing it down, sometimes I just have to trust that something is receiving them, but then I can also trust that Hashem could receive them on the paper in my behavior, in my cognition, and in my affective, in my emotional ways. And it's a little more loving to be a snake than to become the person temporarily in a full expression, which might hurt the other or drive them away. And definitely being the snake is more loving than dumping the personalities or the unwanted personalities and parts of myself, the systems and entire packages onto somebody else. So sometimes to be a snake is actually to be loving. So we'll stop here, and I hope that this was helpful, and we'll continue more with similar topics in the near future, but we're going to stop tomorrow to do a different angle, which is from a book that I've shared from in the past called 70 Faces by Rabbi Avram Aryeh Trugman, whose mentor is Rabbi Yitzchak Ginsburg. That's what we'll pick up on tomorrow, God willing. All the best. Bye.